It was supposed to be just another easy Friday night. One of those semi-regular dinner parties we did with our Boston friend group, wine, warm lighting, overly fancy cheeses, and the same 10 stories recycled with new punchlines. I liked those nights. I liked knowing what to expect. That feeling of predictability, of routine. Safe. We were at Rachel and Ben's loft. Tucked into their usual long wooden table they insisted they rescued from a Vermont farmhouse, though I was pretty sure they just overpaid at a restoration hardware clearance sale. It didn't matter. There were candles, music playing low, and the air smelled like roasted garlic and red wine. Everyone was settled in, laughing, catching up. Sarah was sitting across from me, a glass of Malbec in one hand, her other fiddling lazily with the strap of her purse on her lap. It happened in a blink. I don't even know what made me look. Maybe it was just instinct. I was mid-conversation with Ben about Celtics playoff chances when I saw something thin and plastic slide out from her bag and land quietly on the hardwood floor between her chair and Rachel's. She didn't notice at first, but I did. A little white corner sticking out from under the hem of the tablecloth. I bent slightly to get a better look and saw it. A hotel key card. Plain. Unbranded. The kind you'd get from one of those boutique places in the city. Nothing flashy. Just clean and discreet. I didn't say anything at first. My brain froze for half a second, trying to make sense of it. I looked at her. She saw me looking down, followed my gaze, and then it hit her. Her hand moved fast. Too fast. She leaned over, scooped it up with a little laugh and a shake of her head. "Oh my God," she said, holding it up for everyone to see. "Okay, seriously, which one of you snuck this into my purse? Very funny." There was a ripple of chuckles around the table. Not real laughter. The awkward kind people give when they don't know if something is actually funny or just weird. Ben raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Rachel smiled tight. I forced a smile myself, but something in my chest had gone stiff. Sarah didn't stop there, though. She pivoted hard, like someone trying to outrun a truth that hadn't even been spoken. She turned toward me, still holding the card like a trophy. "John probably thinks this is some secret affair clue," she said, nudging my arm. "You know how paranoid he gets. Once he thought our neighbor was following him because she parked on the same side of the street 3 days in a row." The group actually laughed at that, loudly, like she'd just told a story about me trying to storm the Capitol because someone used my coffee mug. And in that moment, the room shifted. It wasn't about the key card anymore. It was about me. About my supposed overreactions. My trust issues. The conversation moved on. Someone joked about how they once found a sock in their suitcase from a trip 2 years earlier and thought it was evidence of a poltergeist. The mood lightened again. Sarah smiled like nothing had happened. She tucked the key card back into her purse with a nonchalance that felt so scripted I could almost hear the stage directions in my head. Smile, act normal, change subject. And just like that, it was gone. Except it wasn't. Not for me. I didn't ask her anything about it on the ride home. I didn't want to seem controlling or suspicious. But the silence in the car was thick, like both of us were tiptoeing around something sharp on the floor. She hummed along to the music. I kept my eyes on the road. My hands gripped the wheel just a little tighter than usual. In bed that night, she curled up next to me like nothing had changed. Her hair still smelled like that new floral perfume she'd bought last month. The one I told her reminded me of summer in college. Even though she said she picked it up on a whim, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever really know what a whim meant. Was it just a joke from her friends, like she claimed? A weird prank? Who even does that? Slides a hotel key into someone's purse and doesn't say anything until it's found hours later. And even if they had. Why? But the worst part wasn't the key card. It was the way she turned the spotlight on me. That easy, practiced redirection. Turning my confusion into comedy. Making everyone laugh at the idea that I might be concerned. It wasn't that she got defensive. It was that she got theatrical. And she'd done that before, hadn't she? There were little things. Subtle shifts in how she handled anything remotely uncomfortable. A few months ago, I asked her why she changed her phone password. She laughed, called me ancient for still using a thumbprint. Said it was a security update from work. Then she winked and said, What, you think I'm hiding something? As if the thought was absurd. And maybe it was. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I really was overthinking everything. But that night at the dinner party made something in me snap into focus. Because the key card wasn't just a card. It was a symbol. A glitch in the matrix. A moment that didn't belong. It was also the first time I realized Sarah had a mask. And worse, she was good at keeping it on. The next morning, I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. Her laugh. The way her tone changed so smoothly. The way she made a room full of our friends forget what had just happened. And the way she made me look like the problem. And maybe that's what haunted me the most. I didn't bring it up again. I told myself I'd let it go. That I didn't want to start a fight over something that might actually be innocent. But I didn't forget it. Not even close. It sat there, in the back of my mind, like a shard of glass in a drawer I kept opening, pretending it didn't exist, but bleeding a little more every time I reached inside. And once something like that gets in your head, it starts to twist everything around it. You start noticing things you once ignored, questions you never thought to ask, answers that never quite add up. That key card was the first sign. But what came next? That was when I realized I'd been sleeping through alarms for months. In the days after that dinner party, something shifted inside me. I didn't accuse her, didn't bring up the key card again. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. It became a background hum in my brain, a kind of white noise made of doubt. And once doubt takes root, it grows fast. At first, I tried to rationalize. We'd been married 6 years. Sarah wasn't some stranger. We'd been through long distance when she did her internship in Chicago, handled the stress of buying a home, even survived a Thanksgiving with my extended family. We were solid. Or at least I had believed we were. But now I started replaying things. Little things that hadn't meant much at the time. Tiny glitches in the rhythm of our life that I had shrugged off. Like her wedding ring. There had been a few times recently when she forgot to wear it. She'd claim she left it on the bathroom counter or took it off while cooking. Once, she said she left it at the gym because it was bothering her during yoga. That one really stuck out because Sarah never liked yoga. Hell, she barely liked walking fast. But lately, she'd become someone else entirely. New routines, new clothes, new everything. She joined a gym out of nowhere. One of those trendy boutique places downtown with minimalist signage and personal trainers that look like fitness influencers. She started taking late-night classes. It helps me sleep, she said. I didn't argue. I even encouraged it. But then I noticed how she'd come back smelling like cologne. Not perfume, not her own scent. Cologne, not mine. And her phone habits changed too. She used to leave it around the house, charging on the kitchen counter or tossed on the couch cushion next to her. Now it was always on her, face down, silent, glued to her hand like it was surgically attached. She'd get texts and tilt the screen away instinctively, not even realizing she was doing it. I told myself I was being paranoid. People change, right? Maybe she was just being more private. Maybe she was trying to recapture her independence or whatever buzzword was trending in those self-help podcasts she'd gotten into. But the more I told myself to stop looking, the more the universe shoved things right in front of my face. Like the passwords. One afternoon, I went to play a playlist we both used on her Spotify, but I was logged out. When I asked her for the login, she said, "Oh, weird. I had to reset everything. Just use your own." Same thing happened with Netflix and Hulu and her laptop. It wasn't just that she changed passwords. It was that she didn't tell me. Sarah used to overshare everything. Now she was a locked box. Then there were the receipts. I wasn't snooping. Not at first. I'd been tossing old wrappers and receipts from the center console in her car before taking it in for a wash. That's when I found one from a fancy Italian place across town. The kind of place with $24 pasta and $18 glasses of wine. I looked at the timestamp. Saturday night. The same night she told me she was visiting her friend Melissa in Newton. I remember standing in the driveway, holding the crumpled receipt in my hand like it was radioactive. I stared at it so long the ink started to smudge with the sweat from my fingers. She hadn't mentioned going out to dinner, and there were 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine. It wasn't a group dinner. It wasn't a girls' night. It was a dinner for two. I didn't ask her about it. I wish I could say I did, but I didn't. I just went back inside and made dinner like nothing had happened. My mind was racing, but my face stayed calm. That's what scared me. How good I'd gotten at pretending. That same weekend, she bought 2 new dresses. Said they were on sale. They weren't. I recognized the boutique label. Sarah never used to shop there unless it was for a special occasion. She also started wearing a different perfume, musky, heavier. A complete departure from the light floral scents she used to love. It smelled mature, seductive. It didn't smell like her. That's when I realized. Maybe it wasn't meant to. The signs were stacking up so fast I couldn't ignore them anymore. But it wasn't just what she was doing. It was how she made me feel about it. Like I was crazy. Every time I brought up something that felt off, she had a perfect answer. Calm. Dismissive. Smiling like I was being ridiculous. You're overthinking again, babe. I don't know why you're being so weird. I just needed a night out. Can't I have a life? And each time, she made it sound like I was controlling. Like I was the one who was broken. So I'd retreat, apologize, convince myself I was imagining things. But the truth was I wasn't, and part of me knew it. I think the worst part was the silence between us. Not the arguments, we didn't even have those anymore. Just long stretches of nothing. No late-night conversations. No spontaneous laughter. No casual affection. We used to be touchy. Little squeezes of the hand. A forehead kiss while she walked by me reading. Now we barely touched at all. I started to measure her love in scraps. A glance across the room. A dry love you as she headed out the door. I missed her, but I didn't think she missed me. That's when I started staying up later. Not to catch her in a lie. Just because I couldn't sleep next to someone who felt like a stranger. I'd hear the garage door open past midnight. Her footsteps light like she was trying not to wake me. Sometimes I'd pretend to be asleep. Other times, I'd just stare at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her brushing her teeth, the creak of the mattress as she got in bed, the long pause before she turned away from me, and I wondered who she was thinking about, because it wasn't me. I began to dread weekends. She used to love brunch, long walks along the Charles, grabbing coffee and people watching. Now she was always busy. Friend catch-ups, errands. One weekend she told me she had a spa day with Melissa again. Later that night, she came home with her hair curled, makeup flawless, and no massage oil sent anywhere near her. Another receipt, this time tucked into her coat pocket. Cocktail bar. Again 2 drinks. I didn't confront her. I just sat there, staring at the receipt like it might confess if I held it long enough. The hardest part wasn't the lying. It was the gaslighting. The way she expertly turned every concern I had into some kind of personal flaw. Like I didn't trust her because I was insecure. Like my worry was proof that I wasn't being a good partner. She was rewriting the narrative. Quietly, smoothly, and I was letting her. But in my gut, I knew something was wrong. Not maybe, not probably, absolutely. She wasn't mine anymore. I couldn't prove it yet. But the mask was slipping. And I was done pretending not to see. I always thought the truth would come with warning. Like a storm on the horizon. Some kind of thunderclap you can brace for. But the real blow came quietly. By accident. It was a Saturday in late spring. The sky was clear. I remember that because I looked up at it just before everything changed. It started with a favor. My buddy Nate had asked if I could help him drop off supplies for his cousin's bachelorette party. I didn't think much of it. He didn't have a car big enough and I had nothing else going on. He tossed me the address and said the venue was just a rental space over a wine bar near Beacon Hill. Casual, nothing fancy. I wasn't thinking about Sarah. I wasn't thinking about anything but the traffic. We parked nearby, grabbed the boxes of decorations, and carried them up the stairs. Nate texted his cousin that we were there, and she told us just to bring the stuff inside. The door was open. People were laughing. I figured we'd drop the boxes and be out in 5 minutes. But then I stepped inside. The laughter died the second I walked in. It was like walking into a vacuum. The music didn't stop, but the energy in the room collapsed. Eyes turned. A few people froze mid-sip, mid-smile. And standing in the back corner, dimly lit by hanging Edison bulbs, was Sarah. She wasn't alone. Her back was to the wall, half in shadow, but I saw everything clearly. She was pressed close to someone. A man, slightly taller, wearing a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. His hand rested on her waist. Her arms were looped around his neck. They were kissing. Not a peck. Not a drunken slip-up. A kiss that said, "We do this often." My body didn't react at first. It was like my brain was buffering, like it didn't know how to process the image fast enough. Then she looked up. Her eyes locked onto mine. Her mouth still parted from the kiss. And for a second, one brief electric second, I saw it, not shock, not guilt, recognition. She knew exactly what I'd just seen. But instead of pulling away or rushing to explain, she froze. The guy turned, confused, looked at me, then at her, then back at me, and that's when I left. I didn't say a word, didn't make a scene. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my keys as I jogged down the stairs. Nate called after me, but I ignored him. I got in the car, stared straight ahead, and started driving. I didn't even know where I was going, just away. It wasn't until I hit Memorial Drive that I felt it. The weight, the collapse. It wasn't even rage. It was something colder. Something that felt like it had been forming for months and had finally snapped into place. That kiss wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a fluke. It was confirmation. A full stop at the end of a long, crumbling sentence. Mark. That was his name. I recognized him then. One of her co-workers. She'd mentioned him before, always casually, always with that dismissive, over-friendly tone. I'd met him once, briefly, at a work function months ago. He seemed harmless, reserved, polite. Guess not. I drove for hours, literally hours. I didn't answer texts, didn't take calls. I stopped at some diner just before the New Hampshire line, ordered a coffee I didn't touch, and stared at the wall until the waitress asked if I was okay. I told her I was tired. She didn't believe me, but she walked away anyway. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from adrenaline, from something else. Like my body was trying to flush out every lie I'd swallowed whole over the last few months. The dresses, the perfume, the workouts. It wasn't paranoia. It was a slow-motion betrayal that had been happening in real time while I looked the other way. The worst part? The silence. How easily she had kissed him. How naturally her hands had found their place on someone else's body. And how she hadn't said anything when she saw me. No guilt. No apology. Just pause. I didn't go home that night. I slept in my car in a rest stop. Didn't sleep much, to be honest. Just stared at the ceiling, heart pounding every time a truck passed. I kept seeing her face. The way she looked at me like I'd caught her returning something at a store she didn't have a receipt for. Inconvenienced. That's what she looked like. Like I was an inconvenience. The next morning, I went home, half expecting to find her there with some excuse ready to go. But she was gone. Not a note. Not a message. Nothing. When she did return, it was late afternoon. I was in the kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes, running on 0 sleep and 3 cups of coffee. She walked in like nothing had happened. Her hair was up, sunglasses perched on her head. The same floral tote she always used for girls' nights, slung over her shoulder like a prop. We made eye contact. She froze. She started. I held up a hand. Don't. I didn't know you'd be there, she said, voice low. Eyes scanning the room like someone looking for an escape route. Clearly. It's not what it looked like, she added automatically, like it was the default setting for caught cheaters. I almost laughed. The absurdity of it. I had seen her lips on another man's. Had seen her arms wrapped around him like I never saw anymore. Had watched her body respond in a way it hadn't for me in months. Then what was it? I asked. She didn't answer. Just stood there. Silent. Right? I muttered. That's what I thought. I walked past her, grabbed my keys and left again. I couldn't stay. The house smelled like her. Everything in it reminded me of us, a version of us that clearly didn't exist anymore. That night, I stayed at my brother's place. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer and nodded when I said, "I need to crash." The fallout came in waves. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Not yet. I needed time to process what I had seen, to wrap my head around the idea that the person I trusted most had been living a double life and doing it well. Because here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't hit you all at once. It's not one giant tidal wave. It's 1,000 tiny cuts. A slow bleed of disbelief and realization. I started seeing things differently, replaying past moments through a new lens. Every unexplained dinner. Every, "I'm too tired." Every time she shut down my questions with a joke. She hadn't been unsure. She'd been gone. Checked out. Long before I ever noticed. And now I couldn't unsee it. This wasn't just some random kiss. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was a person she worked with. Someone she saw every day. Someone she'd likely laughed with behind my back. Texted under the covers. Coordinated with while I thought she was doing meal prep or scrolling through Pinterest. She chose him. Over me. Over us. And the thing that gutted me most? How easy it had seemed for her. How smooth the transition must have been from partner to stranger. There was no point confronting her again. No point trying to talk it out. I'd seen what I needed to see. She could spin it however she wanted, call it confusion, call it a lapse, call it emotional weakness. But I knew better. That kiss told the truth. And it said everything words couldn't. After the night at my brother's, I started drifting through the days like a ghost. Work blurred into static. Food lost its taste. Every sound felt sharper, every silence heavier. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. There wasn't yelling or throwing things. There was just this cold clarity, like I was seeing my life from outside a window. I didn't talk to Sarah. She didn't talk to me. She moved through the house like a shadow, packing small bags without explanation, vanishing for hours, returning without apology. We were two actors sharing a stage, reciting lines from a script we both knew was finished. Then, 3 days after the Bachelorette party, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of dusky Boston twilight that turns the brick buildings orange. I opened the door and froze. Standing there was Adam. I'd met him once before, years ago at a wedding. He was Sarah's ex-fiancé. They'd been together before me. A long, serious relationship she always described as complicated. She said it ended because he was controlling. "I don't even speak to him anymore," she'd once told me. Yet here he was. In his hand he held a phone. Not his phone. Her phone. "She lost this," he said, his tone flat. Or at least she told me she did. My stomach dropped. He held it out. I didn't move. "Why are you giving it to me?" "Because you should see what's on it." That was all he said before pressing it into my hand and turning to leave. I called after him, but he kept walking. Didn't look back. I shut the door, staring at the phone. It was an older model, her old phone. The one she told me went missing a month ago, just before she upgraded. She'd been upset for a day, then shrugged it off, saying she hadn't backed anything up but it was fine. Now I knew why she'd wanted it gone. The passcode was still the same. She'd been too cocky to change it. My fingers trembled as I unlocked it. The screen opened to a message thread. Not with Mark. With Adam. I scrolled. It wasn't just friendly talk. It was everything. Photos. Messages. Voice notes. Her with Mark. Her with others. Not just one affair. A pattern. A network of half-truths and hidden rendezvous. In one thread she told Adam she missed their past. That she was bored in her marriage. That she sometimes thought about getting back to what felt real. In another, she was arranging to meet someone else while telling me she was at yoga. I felt like I was reading the diary of a stranger who happened to look like my wife. She'd even sent Adam voice notes, laughing about me, about our dull marriage, about how easy it was to keep me from asking too many questions. One photo stopped me cold. Sarah and Mark, but not at the Bachelorette party. This was older. A hotel room selfie. The same boutique hotel whose key card I'd seen at Rachel's dinner party. She'd been carrying a piece of her double life right into our shared evenings, into our friend circle. I scrolled more, my eyes burning. There was another picture, not with Mark. A different man. Some upscale restaurant. Her smile just as int asterisk mate. Just as familiar. She wasn't just cheating. She was living a parallel existence. I don't know how long I sat there, scrolling. Time dissolved. It was like holding a grenade without the pin, knowing it had already exploded and I was just watching the shrapnel land. When I finally looked up, the room felt alien. The framed photos on the wall, vacations, anniversaries, holidays, looked like props. The couch where she used to curl up with me felt like someone else's furniture. I heard the garage door open. She was home. I didn't confront her right away. I didn't even move. I just sat there, holding her old phone, staring at the proof of who she really was. She walked in, humming, setting her bag on the counter. When she saw me, her face flickered. Not guilt, not even surprise, just calculation. "What's that?" she asked, eyeing the phone. "Your old one," I said quietly. Adam dropped it off. Her face drained of color. "Oh," she said after a beat. "I didn't think I'd see that again." "No," I said, voice shaking. "You didn't think I'd see this." She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "Don't. Just don't." For once, she didn't have a joke ready. No quip about me being paranoid. No story about pranks. Just silence. I stood up, walking past her, phone still in my hand. "I know," I said. She didn't ask what I knew. She didn't try to stop me. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, and kept scrolling. The messages with Adam were bad enough, but what gutted me were the ones about me. The way she described me. Boring. Predictable. Safe. The man who had built a life around her was now a punchline in her secret world. At some point, I must have fallen asleep sitting up, the phone still in my hand. When I woke, it was dawn. She was gone again. No note. No text. I took a shower, got dressed, and stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the man looking back. He looked like someone whose life had been split open. Later that day, I opened the phone again, almost on autopilot. That's when I saw the folder. Hidden in plain sight under Notes. Inside were **TS. Photos of receipts, itineraries, appointments. One file stopped me. It was a photo of a clinic hallway. A printed slip with her name on it. The date was recent. The appointment? OBGYN. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Pregnant. Maybe. With who? My knees went weak. I sat down on the bathroom floor, phone clattering beside me. The future I'd imagined, the one with kids, with stability, cracked like glass underfoot. She had already traded it away. When she came home that evening, I didn't ask about it. Couldn't. Not yet. I was beyond anger now. Beyond shock. What I felt was something else. The calm of someone standing in the ruins, realizing there's nothing left to save. I put the phone in a drawer. It felt toxic, like holding it might infect me with the same lies she'd lived in. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew one thing. Whatever this was, it wasn't a marriage anymore. I didn't ask her, not yet, about the clinic, about the appointment slip, about what kind of truth was hidden inside that grainy photo file on the phone she lost. I couldn't bring myself to say the words. The moment I did, it would become real, and I wasn't ready for that. I tried to live normally for a few days, but nothing felt normal anymore. I woke up next to her like I had every day for the last 6 years, only now I knew, without a doubt, that she wasn't really there. Not in any of the ways that mattered. She still wore the mask, smiled, made coffee, scrolled Instagram like the world hadn't shifted. But I could feel it in the way her eyes never lingered on mine. The way her laugh ended half a second too soon. Everything was fractured. And now this, the possibility of a child. Hers, maybe not mine. The idea played on repeat in my mind. I found myself counting months, replaying timelines, trying to build a case like a lawyer preparing for trial. When had she started seeing Mark? How long had it been going on? Could it have started earlier than I thought? Before the gym excuses? Before the key card? I did the math again and again. And the more I tried to convince myself it could be mine, the more my gut told me otherwise. Because this wasn't just one affair. It wasn't just Mark. I'd seen the other names, the other faces. She had built a whole second life behind the one we shared. How could I possibly believe that a pregnancy, if that's what this was some kind of accident that happened within the lines of our fractured marriage? The truth was, I didn't believe it. But I also couldn't ask. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. Instead, I watched her. She became more careful, more guarded. Her phone was no longer just face down, it was physically hidden. She started taking longer showers, leaving the house at odd times. Her explanations were thinner than ever. "Doctor's appointment," she said once, without even looking at me. "I've been having headaches." I nodded, said nothing. But that same day, I checked her location history from her phone's old Google account. She hadn't been near any clinic. She'd been in Cambridge, parked outside an apartment building for nearly 2 hours. The address meant nothing to me, but it didn't need to. She wasn't trying anymore. She wasn't even hiding it well. It was like she had stopped caring whether I found out, or maybe she assumed I already had. And maybe that's what scared me most. There was no shame, no scrambling to explain, no real remorse, just distance. I tried to talk to her one night, genuinely. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, a scene so familiar it felt like a painting of our marriage. I looked over and said, "Can we talk?" She blinked at me, like the words startled her. "About what?" "Us." Her shoulders stiffened. She took a breath, then sighed like I had just asked her to do the taxes. "I don't know what to say," she muttered. "Try the truth," I said, my voice more exhausted than angry. She glanced at the TV, then back at me. "John, we're just different people now. You know that." "Yeah," I said. "But you didn't become someone else. You became someone who lied. Constantly." She didn't deny it. "I don't know what happened," she said quietly. "I just woke up one day and realized I wasn't happy." "Then why didn't you say something before you destroyed everything?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she said. And for the first time, I actually laughed. "You've been cheating on me. For months. You've lied about where you were, who you were with, and now there's a chance you're pregnant, and I might not even be the father. And you didn't want to hurt me?" She flinched at that, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. It was subtle, almost reflexive. And that's when I knew. I didn't have to ask. She was pregnant. And she didn't want me to know. The room fell silent. She stared at the floor. I stood and walked out. There was nothing else to say. That night, I sat in my car for over an hour, parked in the driveway. The kind of cold, bitter silence that presses against your chest like weight. I watched the house, our house, with its porch lights and flower boxes and everything I thought represented stability. But it wasn't home anymore. It was a crime scene. The next morning, I checked the phone again. I wasn't looking for messages. I was looking for evidence of confirmation. In the photo app, buried under random screensh *TS, was a scan of a lab report. No obvious names, but it matched the date and provider listed on the clinic slip I'd seen. Pregnancy confirmed. 8 weeks. No mention of the father. No notes, no partner contact. Just her name and a cold, sterile confirmation of a truth she hadn't told me. 8 weeks. I did the math again. That was right around the same time she claimed she'd gone on a wellness retreat with Melissa. A weekend I spent alone at home, fixing the leaky sink and making her favorite lemon pasta for when she got back. I remembered she came home glowing, tired but oddly serene. She said the retreat was relaxing. "It gave me clarity," she told me. Now I knew what that clarity really meant. She came home from a weekend away, maybe after sleeping with someone else, maybe after taking a test, maybe after deciding to keep it from me, and sat across from me like nothing had happened. Ate the pasta I made, kissed my cheek, went to bed in the sheets I just changed. And I didn't see a thing. I was blind. Willingly, maybe. The next week was surreal. She kept pretending. I kept pretending. We were ghosts haunting the same kitchen, the same bedroom, the same timeline. I started keeping a bag in my car. Just a change of clothes, some toiletries, the basics. I didn't trust myself not to leave one night and never come back. Then came the day she slipped again. She got a call. I saw the name flash on her smartwatch. Mark. She silenced it quickly, but not before I caught her eyes widen. She turned her wrist over like it might erase the screen. Spam, she said. Work junk. But her hand was shaking. She left shortly after. Didn't say where. I followed. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some anonymous motel. Maybe his place. What I didn't expect was the clinic. The same one from the photo. She walked in alone. No appointment in her calendar. Nothing she'd mentioned to me. I didn't go inside. I just watched from the car, heart hammering against my ribs. She was in there for almost an hour. When she came out, she wasn't glowing. She was pale, eyes red, shoulders sunken. She got in her car and sat for a long time. I thought about driving away, pretending I hadn't seen anything. But I stayed. Eventually, she started the car and drove off. I waited until she was gone, then walked to the front door of the clinic. Inside, I asked if someone named Sarah Wilson had checked in that day. The receptionist looked up. Are you her husband? I nodded. Didn't speak. She asked us to give this to you if you came. She handed me a folded slip of paper. I opened it slowly. It said, don't follow me anymore. Please. That was it. Nothing else. I walked out, paper crumpled in my fist. I didn't know if the pregnancy was continuing. I didn't know who the father was. I didn't know if she'd ever tell me. All I knew was this. Whatever child she might carry, it was already part of a lie. And I wasn't going to raise someone else's secret. That night, I didn't wait for another lie. I laid the divorce papers on the kitchen table, calm, steady. She came in late, paused when she saw them, eyes wide. No words, just a long silence. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just said, this ends now. She looked for a crack in me, something to twist. There was nothing left. I had already mourned what we were. This wasn't revenge. It was release. When the papers came back signed, I felt nothing but relief. I moved in with my brother for a while. Quiet mornings, long hikes, late nights filled with thought instead of doubt. I picked up cooking, joined a book club, relearned peace. People asked if I missed her. I didn't. I missed who I thought she was. Now, the silence in my life wasn't emptiness. It was freedom. She was left in the wreckage. I walked out whole.